All right. Welcome, everybody, to FP&A.
Well,
Done right?
Yeah.
Our deep dive into, all things FP&A, specifically for the Office of Finance.
Absolutely.
I'm Ethan, and with me is Emma.
Hey, Ethan, great to be here as always.
And today we're going to be looking at something that's, it's pretty fundamental to any organization.
Right.
And that is headcount and workforce planning.
Yes.
Now, it might sound pretty straightforward at first glance, but trust me. As we get into this, you're going to see that it can actually get really complicated really fast. We've been digging into the work of Revelwood, a firm with over 30 years experience in this space, helping companies transform their Office of Finance, and they've got a really impressive track record.
They do?
Working with companies of all different sizes and from all different kinds of industries, and they've kind of carved out a niche for themselves in designing and implementing these FP&A systems.
Right.
Built on Workday Adaptive Planning. And it's really interesting what they've been seeing. They've really found that no matter what industry you're in, no matter how big or small your company is, that core challenge of figuring out your workforce needs, the who, the how many, the where, like it's a pain point that pretty much everybody struggles with.
Absolutely. It's a recurring theme.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of their clients go to them specifically for help with navigating the worlds of headcount planning.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about, coming up with a number.
Right.
It's got to be strategic, right? You got to align your talent with your goals.
Exactly. And for a lot of these companies, it's so much more nuanced than just a simple headcount.
Yeah.
We're talking about, looking at very specific skills needed,
Right.
the types of roles that need to be filled, and even factoring in the location.
Yeah, the geographic location of where these teams are going to be.
Exactly. And Revelwood's got some pretty amazing examples of how they've helped Workday Adaptive Planning users tackle these kinds of challenges.
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear about these. So why don't we jump right into that first case?
Let's do it. So picture this, a medical technology company working on a global scale.
Wow.
We're talking Europe, the Middle East, Africa, India, Asia Pacific, Latin America, the Caribbean, and Canada.
That's huge.
Right. So you can imagine how complex their operations must be, and personnel is a big part of that.
Yeah, I bet. And I imagine they probably had some pretty unique requirements when it came to allocating their personnel costs.
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't just a simple percentage situation.
Right.
They needed a system that could handle partial allocation based on the monthly headcount within each department.
Okay.
And then it gets even more interesting because that allocation had to be adjusted each quarter based on their overall global assumptions.
So like another layer on top of that.
Exactly. It was a lot to manage.
Yeah, that's a lot of detail to keep track of.
And it really highlights an important point, effective headcount planning in a company that big with that kind of global reach requires a super granular approach.
Yeah, it's got to be.
And that's where Revelwood came in. They got it.
Okay.
They built a custom personnel model within Workday Adaptive Planning.
Yeah.
And this allowed the company's FP&A team and even their senior management to track the exact timing of new hires.
So they knew exactly when people were joining.
Exactly, across all those regions. I mean, that's powerful.
Yeah, I bet that really helped them forecast their personnel needs much better.
Oh, it did, especially because they were going through this period of really rapid growth.
Oh, wow.
It was a game changer.
So what was the overall outcome? I mean, did it actually help them?
It made a huge difference.
Yeah.
The senior manager of FP&A there said that the model and just Workday Adaptive Planning in general is saving them a ton of time.
Wow.
They've got a much clearer understanding of their personnel needs now.
Right.
And it's all tied into their growth strategy. And you know what else is interesting?
What's that?
The senior manager actually gave a shout out to the Revelwood team, describing them as enthusiastic and a great match.
Oh, wow.
From the sales process all the way through to implementation.
That's really awesome.
Right. It shows you how important it is to have a good partnership in these projects.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what about that second example you mentioned? What industry were they in?
All right. So this one is a global software as a service company.
Okay.
And they're in the world of blockchain and crypto.
Oh, wow. Very cutting edge.
Right. They provide this platform for all sorts of financial institutions like exchanges, custodians, banks, trading desks, hedge funds.
Yeah.
All to help them securely scale their digital asset operations.
So a very fast-moving sector.
Very much so.
And I imagine that even in an industry like that where things are constantly changing, that you still need a really solid way to manage your headcount.
You absolutely do.
Yeah.
And this company, they realized that they knew they needed a really detailed personnel model.
Right.
Not just to track where they were at currently, but to have information that was always up to date and easy to understand.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so
Right.
everyone in the organization could access it and use it.
Right. So how did Revelwood approach this one?
Well, first, they created a personnel model specifically designed for their needs within Workday Adaptive Planning.
Okay.
But what really made a difference was that they integrated it with HiBob.
HiBob?
Yeah, that's their HR software platform.
Oh, okay. So they connected the planning system with the HR data.
Exactly. That's key.
Got it. And what did that integration actually do for them? What were the benefits?
Well, it basically automated the whole process of pulling actual HR data directly into the financial planning model.
Oh, wow. So no more manual data entry.
Exactly. That's right. No more exporting from one system, messing with spreadsheets, and then importing it into another.
Yeah, that sounds like a huge time saver.
It is. It eliminated that whole cycle. And now the company has real-time visibility into their headcount. They can see detailed data on each employee, even historical data, are right there within Workday Adaptive Planning.
So their information is always current.
Exactly. It's a big improvement in efficiency and data accuracy.
That's incredible. I bet the senior director of FP&A was happy with that.
Oh, they were. And they actually had some interesting feedback about Revelwood.
Really?
They mentioned that Revelwood was different from other consulting firms they'd worked with before.
Oh, how so?
Well, they said that Revelwood kept the same team of consultants throughout the whole project.
Okay.
Which is something they really appreciated.
Yeah, I can imagine that consistency would be really valuable.
It is.
Yeah.
Especially for complex projects like this.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about that last example, the healthcare organization.
Okay, so this one is a multi-site healthcare organization, and they specialize in these tailored treatment programs based on ABA therapy.
And who are these programs for?
They're for families with autism or other special needs.
Wow, that's really important work.
It is. And, you know, healthcare in general often has some pretty challenging workforce planning needs.
Right, because of the nature of the work.
Exactly. And in this case, one of their biggest pain points was analyzing non-billable time.
Unbillable time.
Yeah, which is super important for any service-based industry.
Right, because you need to know how much time is being spent on things that aren't directly bringing in revenue.
Exactly. It's all about optimizing resources and making sure everything's running efficiently.
Makes sense. So how did Revelwood help them get a handle on that?
Well, they built a model in Workday Adaptive Planning and then integrated it with UKG Pro.
UKG Pro.
That's another HR and workforce management platform that's pretty common.
Got it.
And this integration allowed the organization to generate reports that used conditional formatting.
Conditional formatting.
Yeah. So, for example, they could easily see which employees were logging over 250 hours of non-billable time per payroll period.
Wow. So they could quickly identify any potential problems or areas for improvement.
Exactly. It gave them immediate insight into what was going on.
That's really useful.
And the model was also designed to be easily updated with things like promotions or employee departures.
Oh.
So they could see right away how those changes might impact their workforce plan.
Wow. So they could really plan ahead.
They could. And the finance manager there said that having all this information at their fingertips really helped them have better conversations about how to utilize their workforce.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, they were really happy with the results. And they also mentioned that they had a great experience with Revelwood's implementation team.
Oh, good.
They specifically highlighted the project manager, who they said was really focused and kept the project moving forward.
That's awesome. I'm really seeing a pattern here with these examples.
Me too.
It seems like Revelwood is really good at using Workday Adaptive Planning to solve all sorts of different headcount planning problems. And what's really cool is that there are some key benefits that come up again and again when companies use Workday Adaptive Planning for workforce planning.
For sure. Like, for one thing, the data accuracy, consistency, and completeness all improve significantly.
Yeah. Because everyone's working from the same information.
Exactly. And that leads to cost savings and time savings.
Makes sense. If you're making decisions based on good data, you're going to be more efficient.
Exactly. And it's not just about the data itself.
Right.
These systems actually encourage collaboration and better insights between different departments,
Oh, yeah, like HR and finance?
Exactly. When those two teams are on the same page about the workforce, the whole organization benefits.
Right, because they can plan and execute things together.
Exactly. And then there's the whole concept of driver-based scenario planning. It's basically being able to model different what-if scenarios so you can see what might happen if you change things like hiring rates or retention strategies or compensation.
So you can plan for different possibilities.
Exactly. And you can also use it to spot skills gaps. Like if you need people with certain skills, but you don't have them, you can use the system to figure out how to fill those gaps.
So it helps you stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And that's a big advantage in today's world where things are changing so fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's really about being proactive and strategic.
It is. And it's about recognizing that headcount planning isn't just some administrative task.
Right.
It's a crucial strategic function for the Office of Finance and for the success of the whole organization.
And Revelwood is clearly helping companies do this really well.
They are. Their expertise with Workday Adaptive Planning is making a real difference.
Yeah, they're helping companies get better data, improve collaboration, and take a more strategic approach to workforce planning.
Absolutely. And if any of our listeners are facing similar challenges, if you're struggling with headcount planning or workforce planning,
right,
Revelwood might be able to help.
Yeah, they've got a proven track record.
They do. And if you're curious to learn more, you can visit their website at www.revelwood.com.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up here,
yeah,
I really want everyone listening to think about the potential impact of taking a more strategic and integrated approach to understanding and planning your workforce. It's not just about filling empty positions.
It's about building the right team.
Yeah.
With the right skills in the right place.
And at the right time.
Yes, exactly. So you can achieve your goals.
Well said, Emma. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive into headcount planning with Revelwood.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a great conversation.
It has.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you next time.
To FP&A Done Right.